This is the Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission meeting for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. It's the 10 a.m. business meeting for the month of June, and we'll call the roll. Let the record reflect that Mayor Bernie Jenkins, Superintendent Billy Parker, and Judge Executive Joe Pat Covington were present. We'll go to our first agenda item. Approval of minutes from the last meeting, 5/28/25. Those have been shared. Are there any questions related to those minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll turn it over to General Counsel updates for GMWSS lease and EOI tourism. Phil, and do we need to go into executive session?
If I may, please, the more straightforward issue is the exchange of information agreement with Tourism Department. As I think we mentioned to you at the last meeting, we were working on an agreement to share with Lori Saunders of Tourism. We have since done that and are waiting for their response. I would expect that we'll hear something back shortly. If not, I'll prompt them later this week. The other issue with respect to the lease, what I would say is if this group wishes to discuss, even in a general sense, numbers and terms of the lease, that we might briefly go into executive session for that purpose if the board, and that's your decision obviously, if you would like to do that. We have both a slide and I've got some language we might use for that purpose if you wanted to at least briefly discuss potential monthly lease amount and or term.
Actually, I don't have the slide.
Oh, we don't? Okay.
On that.
I will, and for the members. And not for purposes of any action to take in an executive session, but just to at least discuss numbers and so forth, if you would be more comfortable with that.
This is a renewal,
Yes.
and I have no questions, and I think I saw that in the budget, the terms, so I don't have any additional questions. Do you all have questions that you all wanna?
I think it might, and I'll let Scott jump in here, I think it might be if you wanna give us perhaps some general parameters of what you're comfortable with, it might be better to discuss it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've sent it to Chase, to look at, have not heard from him,
Okay.
but there was a provision in there for, the rates increase,
Very slightly. and-
slightly.
Would there be a motion to go into executive
Sure.
session?
I'll make
We
the
have a
motion.
motion,
I'll
we have a
second.
second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Second. Billy, will you second that?
Oh, yes, yes.
And then,
Sorry.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of executive session. Let the record reflect that no action coming out of executive session was warranted. With that said, then we'll move to the MSP conversion update, John.
All right. Well, first off, thank you all for joining us today and helping us work through some of these issues we've been facing. As far as the connectivity issues we've been dealing with, currently Spectrum and Earthlink are both fighting to see who can get us up and running quicker. Spectrum is out at the moment working on the inside construction. They'll be back within the next 2 weeks to finalize our connection there. And then starting this week, Earthlink was working on installing new equipment, reconfiguring their connections as well to see if they can't get us a better connection.
Cutting down a tree or two.
Installing a new relay on one of the water towers, and then repointing the dishes for us and the water company, trying to improve those connections.
Yeah, they're doing work on behalf of the water company and us as
Yes.
well.
So the water company has Earthlink as well. Have they had the same issues that you all had?
Not to the degree we've had.
Right, yeah, they're not as reliant on that high-speed connection as we are, unfortunately. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some relief within the next week or two and be back up to where we should be. With the cutover with the MSP, 13 layers is completely assumed responsibility for all equipment. VC3 has been removed from their connection, their access to any of our equipment, Microsoft Suite, anything like that. So they are out of the picture completely. We shall see what happens with them actually handling that with the invoices, but
The
at
equipment's
least,
been decommissioned.
yes, they've been decommissioned, and with that, 13 Layers has begun decommissioning some of the equipment we have on site, the old server. Next step is some of the all-in-ones, getting those cleaned up and ready to be repurposed or sold, whatever we may need to do. And we're currently working with James to get cybersecurity training set up for the team here. I believe that gets us to where we need to be.
Some fishing training.
Yes, yeah, it'll be some of that, some tabletop exercises. Okay, if this happens, what do we do next? Who's our first point of contact?
Yeah, we need to update, we need to kick it up a notch on our incident response.
Yes.
What we had is pretty basic, and that's part of the whole package we're buying.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Parker emails you and says we need to buy Bitcoin.
I'll run right out and take care of that, of course. Or Target gift cards, I think, is the next best thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there'll definitely be a lot of discussion on that. And we did actually receive notification from MSISAC this past week of some vulnerabilities that they've seen. One of the items listed on that vulnerability list is our server that was just decommissioned. So we dodged a bullet there.
Good deal. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
General discussion, next agenda item.
You're gonna have to bear with me here, we're working on. There it is. There it was.
The slideshow up at the top, the play emblem with the line coming off of the top.
Like the little screen.
Yeah, little screen with the arrow. There's a circle with
This
it.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. There you go. And then
There we go.
all right.
Okay, so Cabinet for Economic Development, there were no new projects in May. KJRA project, there was no payment made in May. I've got cap period there. Actually, we're out of the cap period. Apparently, they were a couple months behind because I received the April and May reimbursements for the tax abatement. So one of those will be coming in the distributions that we'll be sending out later today or tomorrow for April, and then next month we'll do May. So they apparently got about a month behind on those. Revenue Commission, we have been invited to be the featured speakers at KGFOA, that's the Kentucky Government Financial Officers Association. They have a meeting on July 10th. Owensboro is hosting, but it is virtual. So John and Phil and I are putting the finishing touches on that presentation, and we will be their featured speakers on July 10th at that event. So
At that event, after that event, could you give us an update about any, because what I understand is that the individuals that were pushing centralized collection are back making visits to run this back up the flagpole again in this next session. So I'm sure that'll be a topic at that meeting. I mean, do you think it will be, or possibly not?
It may come up. The crux of our meeting is similar to what we did for COLA and KLC last year, which is, word has gotten around about our success, what we're doing. People want to learn our methods. And, for us, this is a chance to be in front of an audience that are the financial officers for the mayors, the county judges, whoever in government throughout the state, and kind of get them to have a better understanding of the importance of occupational tax on how we do what we do and why we do it that way, and how it can very positively impact your collections if you do that. So that I don't know. I've been put on notice a couple of months ago by KLC to be prepared to go and speak before one of the interim joint committees, because we know.
Yeah.
And we talked about that at our spring COLA conference. They're coming back.
Yeah. I just didn't know if at this meeting there would be discussion across the board about it, and just.
It may come up, and maybe that's something we
Yeah,
want
I
to
was actually,
include,
I would include at least some language on how centralized collection could be detrimental to the impact we've had here. It would definitely tie some hands as far as what you could achieve at the local level with pursuing these occupational taxes.
If they did as great a job as they did on the driver's license.
Oh, yeah, we would be
Well,
set.
When I went to the Northern Kentucky thing we talked about last month, that was a big topic of conversation, was this centralized collection. It kinda took, we didn't even get to finish our slides, cause that's all they wanted to talk about, and that was one of the things, you know, ask anybody who's tried to get an unemployment check from the state in the last 5 years. Let's look at what's going on with Kentucky Wired. It's 10 years behind schedule and $100 million over budget, and they're honestly looking at now, because of the fight going on between the state and the provider they're using, there may be fewer people connected to broadband than when they started the project 10 years ago. And then you just add the state taking over what was 120 driver's license offices, doing 30 regional, and it's been a disaster. I mean, the people are, the elderly people on you know, with walkers standing in line for 6 and 7 hours a day in the heat, in the pouring rain, and the freezing cold. It's been a disaster. They won't admit that, but it really has. So just, you know, can you think of something? The question I asked it in Northern Kentucky, can you think of something in the last 20 or 30 years that the state took over that the local jurisdictions used to do, and it's working out a lot better?
I don't think you'll find that.
There were no answers to that, so I think that's the answer to your question. But we will certainly, I think that's a good idea, John, to incorporate at least starting that discussion. Because Owensboro, if you'll recall, when the centralized collection came up in the session this year, Owensboro was one of the first ones out front saying, this is bad, this is not gonna work for us. And they talked a lot of the specifics about what I just said, about the problems they have now getting TIF money and things of that nature. And that's the biggest thing, and the smaller the jurisdictions, the more it's an issue. The cash flow issues of waiting on them to give us the tax money would be one of the biggest and potentially catastrophic issues. I mean, there were some of these smaller cities and counties, I mean, they wouldn't be able to pay their sheriffs and police officers, the cash flow just wouldn't be there. Pretty scary stuff, so.
I didn't intend to hijack the general discussion, but I just thought it'd be good to.
No, we're definitely on guard and on notice and prepared to continue to speak on that, and I think this will be a good one. Certainly Owensboro, I know them, that's one of the reasons they asked us to come, so I'm sure they'll probably bring it up, if not, we will. So next is the individual compliance efforts. So here's what May looks like. It was a $99,944 a month. This is us pursuing collections. This is not it's part of what we collected for the month, but this is extra efforts team members are going through. Phil came in at 29,000, Tammy at 10, Michelle Disney wins the prize this month, 39,000, and Denny at 20,000. So a very, very good month for pursuing delinquent taxpayers.
I always wonder if there's a friendly office pool about those
Over
numbers
and
from
under.
month to month.
Yeah.
Nothing officially sanctioned, but you know.
So you give away gift cards, that's like the Walmart gift cards we got.
No, I don't think Phil would give a thumbs up to that.
Appreciate
I'll
the
bring it.
efforts. Yeah, for sure.
So let's see here, electronic payment summary. So $49,000 came in, 100% of that was over the web. Nobody's using the portal here. You can see it's almost evenly split, net profit and payroll for May. That's probably some residual from the April filing, some late filing. 1% of it was regulatory fees for the city, and you can see vast majority is still e-checks, 83%. So good, people still using those electronic services. Okay, so the monthly collection stats below, as we talked about last month, a little bit of a bounce back. We're up almost $500,000 over last year. That's a 10.55% increase. You can see the city's up about 12%, county's up 10%, and school board is up 3.9% for the month. I think I told you last month that May would be a stronger month. It didn't offset the big down we had the month before, but we'll move on to, does anybody have any questions about the month of May before we move on to the quarterly? And this is where I have to do Alt-Tab. There we go. Operator error. No, it's still good. It's on my screen, John.
Alright, hold on just a second.
Nice to hear.
Alright, yeah, select that one. Okay.
So, in May, we surpassed $70 million in collections this year, so that's a new record. Of course, that's driven by the largely net profit deposits of anticipated payments. So as of the end of May, we are $11.9 million over where we were this time last year. And I can tell you the distribution I'm working on right now, which is the 1st of June through the 16th of June, we've surpassed 75 million, with a few days left here in the end of the month. So it looks like between 75 and 76 million is where we're gonna wind up for the fiscal year in collections, and that's a new record. So you can see here, based on the end of May, the city is up 4.8. I can't see this on my screen. County's 5.1, and schools 1.9. So there's, as of this point, from last year, we've collected that much more for each of you. You've got 4.8 million more. County's got 5.1. School board's got 1.9 million more than we had at the same time last year compared to the fiscal year. So we'll see at the next meeting after the end of June what the fiscal year wound up looking like. Any questions on any of
I
that?
think what were we about 63 million last year? something like
63 million. So,
So you were, yeah, almost. That's good.
so we've got, and of course, just remember there's two net profit deposits in anticipation. In years past with this particular employer, we've seen that they may not use all that this year. Hopefully that's not the case. They'll use it all this year, and then next year we'll get some more. But it's very volatile, very difficult. This one was a net profit amendment due to an IRS audit, so that's why that is actually 3.6 million. We should have got when, John? Was it 21 or 22?
It was 21, sir.
21. So yeah, that's an audit, and that's about right. The IRS usually about 3 or 4 years behind on getting to those. So that was a nice bonus for us this year as well. But that 3.6 million we should have gotten back in 2021.
And looking at the June, very positive first
Yeah.
part of the month.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna make up I mean, it's been a good month. We'll see. You know, that was a big, April was very large. In fact, it's the worst month of the whole fiscal year. And like we talked about last month, I know Superintendent, pardon you weren't here, but we think part of this is all the confusion associated with the disaster declarations. And when we went to COLA in May, I talked to a lot of our other partner jurisdictions throughout the Commonwealth that are saying, our collections are down, but our extensions are up. And so, some people think, well, I don't have to file an extension. It was horribly handled by both FEMA and the IRS. And, the state's doing their own thing. We're all all the cities and counties are doing our own thing. So it created a lot of confusion in the taxpayers and the company's minds. It's very unfortunate. But I'm anticipating a scenario, and I also talked about this last month, where you'll remember during COVID in 2020, they moved the tax filing deadline from April 15th to July 15th, which took it out of our fiscal year, put it in a different fiscal year. So we had a scenario in 2020 where we were down a couple of $1 million, but then the following year, 2021 fiscal, we were up almost $4 million, which I think it was 3.8, 3.9. So it was really, truly about a $1.9 million increase. But because the filing deadline was moved, I'm anticipating and hoping that's probably what's happening this year. We're gonna continue to see people continue filing whenever they're ready to file.
Can we track that?
They may wait. We're trying to track that and see what's gonna happen, whether they're gonna go ahead and file October 15th, or whether they're gonna wait another 17 days to November 3rd. I heard a news report when all this was going on before April 15th. They said, oh yeah, you got till November 30th. I don't know where they got that number, but there's a lot of misinformation out there about this. So I think what we normally would have gotten in April, that's why it was so far down, is gonna either trickle in, or maybe we'll get a big bunch of it. But again, it'll be too late for this fiscal year, it'll be over.
Sure.
So we may, in fiscal year 26, we may see another huge increase, because we'll have all this money that should have come in April that's gonna come in the next fiscal year. It's kind of a timing thing going on. So,
Okay.
John, any other thoughts on that? You're a little closer to the data than I am, I guess.
Not at the moment, no. It's been a headache. It's calls every single day. What am I supposed to do? Do I need to file? Do I not need to file? My CPA said that I don't have to do anything till November 3rd. So a lot of coaching, correcting, and educating going on right now.
Yeah.
Something to be mindful of, because now next year, just like we had the 7.7, 3.6, and 3.9, that we were kind of tracking kind of separate
Yeah,
to try and get a handle on real numbers. Now you've got, in theory, 2.2, that next year if we're, with it, like, okay, well, something to think about is that impacted that
yeah,
potentially.
I would anticipate when we start looking at this for the next fiscal year, you're gonna see October and November probably be very high. Because that's when all these people that should have filed in April are probably gonna file, so we'll probably see in October and November that are abnormally
Months.
higher than these numbers,
Mhm.
is what I would anticipate. So, but we will keep a close eye on it and, keep you informed. But yeah, we are right now, we are 75.1 million, as of the distribution we're getting ready to send you all. So,
Thank you.
okay, let's see if I can screw this up, John. I'm seeing something else. We go. General discussion. Okay.
Yep.
So for the month of May, 128 new accounts opened, 33 closed. That's compared to 116 and 44 last year. We are currently sitting at 556 new and opened accounts, only 201 closed. So we're still lagging a little bit behind last year on the new accounts, but we're way below 152 below. Not as many being closed this year. So we are averaging, as of the first 5 months of this year, 111 new accounts every month and 40 closed. And if that holds up for the rest of this calendar year, we'll exceed 1,000 new accounts again, as we have, like we have in the last 4 or 5 years. And then this is with that new data thrown in there. As of right now, we have 10,721 open and active accounts that we're working. Any questions on any of the other general discussion items?
Very helpful data. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, the budget. What do I need to do, John? What did you do last time?
Just drag it over to the second screen here.
It's not right.
There we go.
Okay, so this is the final. I did get the 3% COLA put in. If you go to the COLA tab, oh, no. So this is last year, and this is the numbers from Stacy. All of our, with the 3% COLA added, that's the 1.110, and then that is what is plugged into here. And then this gives us our final budget number of $1.4 million. That's the city, county, and school portion of that. And there was one error on the one I sent you. I'll send you this new one. I found it this morning. Under miscellaneous, this particular cell on what I sent you Monday was blank. When it, for some reason, the formula didn't copy over, and I apologize, I just caught that, this morning, and I corrected, so I'll send you all, everybody that was on the distribution will get this corrected, number. So, this is the only thing that has changed since last month when we looked at this. I think we had added in John's computer numbers, and, we had the cybersecurity policy quote. Everything else, of course, the items here in red or indicators where it had gone up, or green is where it went down. But the overall number is 1.479, it was 1.382 last time. Most of that, as you can see, our largest expense here is the payroll, and that's the COLA, pension contributions, that's everything, that's an all-in number. Everything else are items you've already viewed or approved.
I always appreciate your footnotes and just the little extra data, you know.
Yeah, and
information.
on the footnotes tab, the easiest way to do this, cause you know, this is big, cause I'm getting older and I need to see these letters. So, the easiest thing is to click, over here in this cell, and everything that's on that line is right here, it's easy to see, even some of the longer ones like that. It's at a glance if you do that, that's how I do it when I'm, checking these numbers and making sure everything's tying back, so,
Any questions, or comments, and, I always appreciate the detail, and, think it's being a good steward of dollars and managing the agency and, providing the needed resources for the agency, so. Any other comments or questions, or would there be a motion?
Motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we can work for another year.
yes, we actually can.
Yes. So our next meeting is Wednesday, July 23rd at 10 a.m. I don't have any problem with that date, I don't believe.
Yeah, there are 5, Wednesdays in July, so this one will be 23rd, it will be the 4th one, for our meeting.
Yeah, I might have a problem with that, cause I may have to send somebody, but just,
No problem. We won't talk about you too bad.
that's, well, I mean, I've been kind of a dud the past couple of months, so I need to be able to get back in the swing and.
It's not like school was out or graduation,
Yeah,
that stuff going
yeah,
on. so,
yeah.
You sent this Ellison guy here that one time. We didn't know about him.
Yeah, well, that's all right, we're getting rid of him anyway.
Yeah.
He's out July 1, so.
Sign is not alike, what you trying to say?
So if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.